you can tell, I've been thinking about this project for quite some time now. I've been wanting to build a custom tonneau cover for this thing for quite a while, probably a couple of years. I just really didn't know how to go about building it the way I wanted it. Looking at other ones online that are, you can't get a tonneau cover for these trucks anymore that I know of. So I need to build something. I do actually have one that I've had for many, many years for this truck. That's one of them roll-up leather ones or fake leather ones. It's got the snaps all the way around the edges and stuff. It's just that it's time to get rid of that thing. I've used it a couple times now. When I go on trips and stuff, just kind of keep this somewhat sealed back here. But the snaps are breaking off, and some of the crossbows are kind of rubbing on the paint up here and stuff, and it mounts, it clamps to the top here. And that's one thing I'm trying to get away from. I don't want it actually mounting on the top. I want something that's nice and flush, and it kind of sits between the bed rails here. So today, basically, that's what I'm going to be doing, is trying to make something that fits in there. Now, I have certain criteria that I've kind of wanted this to meet. That's why I've been thinking about it so long. You have a lot of the different Velcro ones. You have the kind of the ones that go retract into the front. I kind of looked at some of those too and seeing if I could just take a full-size pickup and cut it down somehow. I didn't want to necessarily buy one, cut it up, and then it didn't work. So that's why I'm trying to just figure out how to make something myself. And the other thing is, I have that box that I put up front. I kind of maybe shot myself in the foot by doing that, but I want to be able to access that without having to remove the whole thing or whatever. So I want to have some sort of access to the front there. Now, I don't necessarily need this thing to be waterproof. I don't care if it leaks a little bit inside there around the edges or something like that. I just kind of want to keep most of the debris, prying eyes out of the back here if I've got stuff underneath. So stuff like that. I just want a nice cover that looks pretty decent. I would go with a solid one piece. A lot of those that kind of fold up, they pivot in the very front and then they just kind of flip up in the back with some shocks or something. Problem is I have that box again. So I have to have some sort of access to this box up front, and that's why I've just been trying to figure out what I want to do. Kind of come up with the idea to have a bifold tonneau cover here, and they have those other ones that are trifolds, or they fold 3-4 times, whatever. I want to be able to remove it fairly easy. It's going to be somewhat lockable, I guess, quote unquote, and just something that I can put on here. It's going to look decent. I can access the front. It's going to keep some of the water out and whatnot, because this is all sealed anyway. This box is kind of sealed up front here, so any water that gets in the front or the sides or whatever, it can get in there and it'll just run out the back or out the side or something like that. So not a huge deal there, but I did kind of get started here. I'm trying to get some of the harder stuff out of the way here. I have these 2 rails that I plan on mounting to the side here, to the box on each side. You can see I kind of have this one painted up blue because I don't have any machining dye or that blue dye, so I just used some paint, and you can see I got a little scribe mark on there. But what I wanted to do is bolt these to the side here. I always hated on these pickups. They always had a thin, real kind of chintzy pinch weld right here between the inner and the outer box. And if you had something in here and you wanted to run just a ratchet strap over the top, and you wanted just to hook it underneath here, that bed would just kind of pull out, and it wasn't very, very sturdy. So when I restored this truck, how many years ago, I actually put in, I believe it's a 1x1/2 solid steel all the way along the rails here on both sides. So it's got a nice beefy solid metal piece there. So I actually have something that I can bolt to. I had thought about ways of trying to just clamp it on here like a lot of toppers and other stuff have, and other tonneau covers have. But I didn't necessarily want to do that, or nothing came to mind that I thought would work well. So I just decided to run bolts from straight underneath and just run them up into this. So being a 1/2 inch thick right there, I kind of maybe see that. But so it's nice and thick there. And I was able to actually get those 6 bolts on each side drilled and tapped to hold that on. But this one's already basically done. This one here, I'm just about finished up with it. Like I said, I got to trim that where that scribe mark is there. But this started out as an 1.5 inch, just aluminum angle, and I had to kind of massage it here. I had to cut a bunch of it off here along this. I don't know, I maybe cut a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch off the edge here, just because I wanted the same thickness as what's here. I also have lights underneath here, so I didn't want it blocking the lights as they shine down. So I cut it to kind of meet there, so you can see it's like that. But so I had to do that. I had to cut this edge out here on both sides, just because of the side of the bed here. And then I also had to massage it. Not so much right here, this little bump, because that's far enough in, but this right here. So because this comes out, I had to kind of cut around that. Same on that side, I had to kind of cut around it, but for the most part, it's all the way along. Now, the bed rail here, I don't remember when I put that solid steel in here, I could have swore that was perfectly straight, because the bottom of it is straight, but the top of the bed has got an arch to it. So it's a little bit thicker in the middle here, and then the edges here are thinner. So I had to put basically an arch to it because I want that tonneau cover to be as flush as I can here. And when I bolt up like this one, I have to cut that yet. That was what that scribe mark was. The ends here would stick up just a little bit because they're not as thick. So all I did was bolted that up to the rail, and then I kind of made this little, I don't know, cheap, I just took some pieces here and cut it up. It's just a little scribe marker. But basically, when it was bolted up, I put that on there, and I just ran it all the way along the rail like that, and then made my mark on here. So, like I said, I got to cut that yet. But, yeah, when I restored this, I really wanted to beef up the bed as much as I could if we ever want to carry something in here. If you kind of saw, I have these other anchor rails in here too. I forget who these are made by, but you can get, I think I got these from Fleet Farm or something like that. But US Cargo or something like that, I think, makes them. They just kind of snap in here and they anchor down. But I had reinforced even on the back side of this inner panel here. I put some more steel, so this was all nice and sturdy, and there's one in front, one in back here, one on each side. So I can kind of anchor anything I want to here and tie it down. So I didn't necessarily need this to be beefy, but I figured I'd do it anyway while I had all that apart, and this was all rusty anyway when I restored it. So, and you can see I got rid of the stake pockets when I did it. But anyway, enough rambling about that. Basically, I got to finish up cutting this piece here. Then I can get that bolted in on that side, make sure that's good. And then I can kind of start working on the main structure here. I figured I'd get these rails out of the way first, then figured you'd want to see all that drilling and tapping there. So get those rails on, and then we can kind of start making up what it's going to be in the middle here. All right, I started mocking this up here, kind of tacking it together just a little bit. I have my 2 rails bolted in that I was just working on. That side was the one I had to finish cutting up. So that one's bolted all in. Then what I'm doing here is I'm taking another piece of angle iron, and that's going to be the side of the tonneau cover, basically. So you can see it's just going to come down, slide right in here. So I just kind of have to get my spacing just right. So I have somewhat of an even groove here. And then I figured what I'll do is mock it up on the truck. I don't know how square this bed is in the corners, so I don't know if I can actually lay this down on the ground and, use a square and get it nice and square, and then I put it up here and it's off a little bit. So I figured I'm just going to do this in the truck, tack it together, and then I can always set it on the ground and finish welding it. But so I'm just using, like I said, the angle iron. This is 1.5 inch, and then I have 1-inch tubing here. So I got my front 2 bows in there, or crossbars, and I kind of have, this is more or less centered, because right here is where I'm going to have my hinge, right in the middle. The hinge is going to be a little different. I can show you that in a little bit here, but I was trying to figure out what I want to do for hinges here, because my plan is to have this be able to flip this way And then if I want to take this one and flip it forward, I can. And it's just right in the center. So either one I can flip forward or back and then, drive it that way or just be able to access what's in here. So I looked at a lot of different hinges to be able to do that, to get it to flip forward and kind of lay flat like that. And there wasn't much out there other than a piano hinge. I didn't necessarily want that piano hinge showing because it would have had to stick up on the top side for me to be able to tip it one way or the other. Ideally this is a small enough box where you could probably make this all one piece, not have it bifold, and just have a one piece and just be able to lift it off. It's not going to be very heavy, especially with aluminum. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be using for the very top. I wanted to go 1/8 inch just sheet aluminum. That's pretty spendy for one 4x8 sheet, and it kind of sucks that this is bigger than 4x8 sheet. This is a 6-foot box, but it's 54 inches across, so it's a little bit wider than a 4x8 sheet. And so I'd have to have 2 pieces on here anyway, or take 2, weld them together, and somewhat hide that seam if you went all one piece. I'm not sure if anyone makes something bigger than that, where you could buy it and then just cut it to size and then you're done. So either way, I'm going to put probably a split right here, which means I'm going to have to buy 2 pieces of whatever I'm using. So I haven't decided that exactly what I'm doing, but the hinge part, I'm probably going to have to put the hinges attached to the 2 cross members and then get them squared in here and then weld them together with the hinge on it already, rather than cutting it and then trying to align everything. But for now, I'm actually leaving this together. I'm going to get as many crossbows as I can in here, and then I'll probably just come back and cut right here with a Sawzall or something like that, and that'll be my split. So next, I'm basically, I got these 2 tacked in here, kind of got it all pushed forward here. I'm going to get my next 2 crossbows here, one here, and then I'm going to do the very back one here. Then I should be able to start working on the hinge part, and then I can show you what I decided to go with for a hinge there. All right, I got 4 of the 6 cross members here tacked in place. I've got these 2 middle ones here just kind of clamped on for the time being, just to kind of help with warping as I tacked the other ones in place. Did my best to protect the paint from any, the heat and the welding being on the vehicle. So everything's looking good there. I'm liking how my gaps are. I guess I'm happy with them from the bed rail to the tonneau cover here. They're pretty straight. The gap is pretty consistent. This one's got a little whoop-dee kind of in the middle. It just does a little jag on the bed itself. But I think the gap will look fine there. I'm finding out that the bed is not square. So doing my best to kind of compensate for that. I'm trying to get the middle cross members as square as I can, especially when I put the hinge in right here. I'm going to have to get these 2 squared up, just so when I fold it, it's not crooked this way or that way. So I'm going to do my best there to get that square. But kind of the front here is just a little bit off, and the back is a little bit off, and some of that's the tailgate and the front panel in the bed. So it's not by much. It's maybe 1/4 inch or something like that. So I'm glad I kind of did it on the truck, but so far I'm liking how it looks. You can kind of see how I've been notching out the angle here, and some of that is just to kind of, so it's fitting up in here. This one's probably the tightest up against this bottom mounting rail here. Most of them are kind of about that sort of gap, but that's the way it's going to look. I suppose I could have notched that bolted on angle piece right here, so these actually sit in there and then it won't slide forward or back. But once the tailgate is up, this thing isn't going to move around anyway. But that's kind of how I decided to go with it, and I think it's turning out okay. But yeah, notching all these so they're nice and flush on top, so whatever I put on top here will be good. Yeah, just got to get these, finish up welding these once I get it off. So these 2 center tubes here, where the hinges is going to be, are actually 1.25 inch tubing, where everything else is 1 inch. I went with that because of these hinges here. Where did I set that now? There it is. So I was almost going to get do the piano hinge and just, it was going to stick up and you were going to see it, and that's just the way it was going to be. You know, and I was okay with that, but I happened to come across these kind of hidden or concealed hinges here for, you know, like interior doors and stuff like that. And this is what it looks like. I think they make a little bit different sizes, but this is the hinge that I'm going with. You can see it opens up and all the hinge and everything is inside there. So I went with 1.25 inches on here just because this is about 1 inch wide on each side here, and that way it'll fit in here. But what I'll have to do is notch out for that to fit in there like that. On each side, I'll have to measure it perfectly, basically. But then so right there, it would be folded back, and it opens far enough up where everything on top would, you know, once it's folded over, it would clear. And then once you fold it back down, it's going to be folded in like that. And I think that's going to be perfect. The only thing you'll really see here is you're going to see the seam where it's cut. And I'm going to do my best to get that as close as possible so there's not a huge gap. I don't have necessarily water leaking through there. Now I can put some sort of foam or something like that in there to kind of seal it up, or some sort of seal, but I was hoping that these hinges here, you can see there's a slight gap between them. That's maybe 3/16, not quite 1/4 of a gap, I suppose, between there. So I'm going to have to try and figure that out, and you know, how far into this tube I'm going to go. I was hoping that I would be able to just do the, let me set this down here. So I was hoping to maybe just notch out from this point to this point, but I'm going to have to notch this whole thing out all the way down each side. And these are pretty adjustable. I think there's 3 different ways to adjust these things. You can see there's kind of a bunch of screws in here that move them around, but they're a hidden hinge or a concealed hinge. Basically, it'll actually fit in there. I don't have to cut out the back side. You can see it's going to fit in there no problem. But I will have to just notch it out to that shape. I'm going to actually end up having to I want to put 3 of them in there. 2 might be enough. I bought these as a pair, so I got to get one more pair coming just so I can have 3. But I figured I'd space 3 out just so it holds it nice. Otherwise, sometimes if you have just 2, you might have 1 here, 1 over there, and then the center is higher, lower, whatever. So, you know, maybe I'll end up putting all 4 in, but I figured I'll just do 3 would be enough. But I'm pretty happy. These are pretty stout hinges. Probably be overkill for this, but I really like that they're going to be hidden. So we're going to try that out. I'm going to have to get these. These are both cut to the same size or length. Now I'm just going to have to kind of match them up so that the opening for these hinges are in the same spot. And actually, depending on how I do this, you can see the one side sticks over just a little bit. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but you can see it's off just a little bit. Now this bottom piece is actually adjustable. I can push that in or pull it out on each side. So we'll get that notched out, hopefully just perfectly. Now I don't know how I'm going to be able to necessarily bolt it on. It's too bad that these aren't aluminum. This is like a pot metal or something like that. But if they were aluminum, I could just kind of tack them in place. Now they're not going to quite stick out to the back. They're going to be something about like that. So what I'll probably do is open it all the way up the sides of that hole, and then on the back side here, just put a spacer between here and the back side of the pipe and run a bolt all the way through. So then whatever spacer I have on the back side here, I can space that out this way or that way. So that's my idea right now. It's just a matter of kind of getting the holes cut in the right spots and see if that works. But once the hinges are actually in place, I can get both of these kind of bolted to those cross members. Then I'm going to put these cross members in here in the right spot, make sure they're square and everything, and then tack them in place. So it's going to take a little bit to get all this kind of set up, but then once it's in here, then I can kind of mark where they're supposed to go, notch these rails out, and then tack them in just like I did the other 4 on here. And then, all right, working on those center 2 cross members here. You can see I got the center hole actually punched out here or cut out, and I got the other ones marked. You probably could run 4 hinges on here, but it still seems like it's overkill. So 3 I think is going to work nice. But what I'm doing here now is just making sure before I cut these other two here on the ends, I want to mark on my other one exactly so they're even. They don't necessarily have to be even here, just as long as I made sure to center this on each tube, and then from there out, they should be matched up here now. So I'm just starting the line there, and I'm just going to have that. I have my little pattern that I just line up with the line, and I trace around my pattern. So those will both be in the same spot. And I'll have to fine tune that once I grind that open, but that should work nice. And then here's let me see, I don't have them in there. I kind of figured out that I need a 1/4 inch spacer back here. Let's see if I can put them in here. 1/4 inch spacer behind there. Whether I put a spacer right in the middle or where either I can put the spacer here in this area or out here in this area where the bolts are going to be. This might work better, but you'll see it's going to sit right down in there. That's going to be nice and flush. There are caps that come with these, so it covers this area here. Let's see if I can grab one here. See these little caps here? So that's just going to sit like that. It's going to finish it off real nice. The way it is now, it just countersinks it underneath just a little bit, so when those are on, those are going to be pretty much flush there. So I'm going to like the looks of that. That finishes it off real nice. But then you're going to have that there. There's, like I said, there's a little bit of a gap that even with those caps on there, it's not going to fully be tight. So between these two cross members, you're going to have just a little bit of spacing, which might leave me room just enough for some foam or some sort of seal in there. But you can see how nicely that's going to work once they're bolted in. So it's just a matter of getting these kind of lined up. And what's nice is the width of these here is like 0.98, so basically an inch. So being these are 1.25 inches, all you have to do is open it up until you hit the sides here. It's 1/8 inch thick on each side. So there's your 1/4. So that leaves you an inch opening, and you don't have to sit there and try and make sure it's centered in between the two sides of the tube. All you have to do is open it up until you hit the sides of the tube. And it fits right in there. It should be nice and square. And that's going to work out real nice. So I don't know if I'm going to put necessarily some silicone or anything in here to seal them up. But as long as I make them nice and tight, don't go too big with my hole, that's fitting real nice right now. So all I got to do is just kind of finish making my holes here, and then I can get those hinges mounted on one side and put my spacers in or whatever, and cut the other side. And once we got those together, we'll test to make sure everything hinges or pivots correctly, and then we can actually get them installed in the center over here. All right, I got my hinge all assembled here. You know that feeling of, even though you built it, you're still surprised at how well it turned out? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm feeling right now. I think this thing turned out great. The hinges are going to be all hidden. Basically, only when you open it up, you're going to see this part. I still got my caps and stuff I'll have to put on here because this will end up being painted and everything, but that is going to be great. It's got just roughly about 1/8 of an inch gap between there. I'm not 100% sure how I'll try and seal that up. In between the hinges here, I can kind of put some foam or some sealing tape or something just to cover that gap. But in the hinge area, I don't know if I'll have room to put anything there. So it might just have to be open. What I'm going to try and do is just have the panels on top, make sure they're basically touching. So I'll have to overlap about 1/16 of an inch on each one so they close up nice and tight. But that is going to work great. So this basically would be the top side. So then it would fold open 180 like that. It's just kind of hitting the vise right now. But now I'm going to try and get this thing on here square. So I'll get this kind of in the middle here and get it squared up best I can. Being that this bed is not perfectly square, and I know my tonneau cover is not perfectly square, but try and get it in the center so at least when you flip it one way or the other, that it kind of lines up with the front or the back or whatever. So get this thing on there and weld it up. All right, check it out. Got the hinge tacked in place here. I don't think I'm going to do any adjustment, but check this out. Looks pretty slick now. You can see I'm slightly off. If you look, the top is a little bit further that way than the bottom part of it. And then you can see, okay, I should have maybe went to the back, but you can see it's not perfectly lined up, perfectly square, but here it's a little bit short than the bottom half is. The top is a little bit shorter than the bottom half. And that's just because I think the front firewall here, or bulkhead, is kind of tweaked a little bit versus, and also the tailgate. But now with the hinge in there, because this bed had a slight bow to it, everything's laying flat now, so I got that, basically that 1/8 of an inch all the way along here to the top of the bed. So that should be work pretty nice, but yeah, here you can see it's not perfectly lined up. You'll have the locks that are in here and the top material that I'll put on here that'll kind of help keep it off of the paint itself. And there it's off a little bit, but you can even see here that these two bows or cross members here are not, one is pointing this way and one's pointing that way a little bit. They're within roughly 1/8 of an inch, but I'm happy with that. I think that turned out great. Works nice and free, doesn't bind or anything like that. I don't know if I'm going to have a handle or how I'm going to, once the top layer is on here, I don't know what I'm going to do to be able to grab that. If I'll just be able to use the lock and pull up on the lock, or if I'm going to put a little strap or something on here. Some of those locks that I'm looking at, they have a little handle that you can get for it, or I can make something maybe, just something to get your fingers under it. But I am tickled pink with the way that turned out. Now it's just kind of a matter of kind of finish fully welding all these cross members and stuff together. I may have to add material in here for my locks. I got to see how the locks turn out. I think there's enough of this 1.5 inch angle right here that I can drill through that to put my locks along here and have enough beef there. But until I get those locks in, I'm not sure if I'm going to have to add a little bit more. I will have the top layer on here too that'll help, but I'd like to kind of go through this if I can, but I may just have to have a little bump out or something like that in each spot where I'm putting the locks. I'm probably going to put 4 on each panel, so kind of one here, and 2 over there, and then here and here and here, just to kind of hold everything down, just so it's not moving around. But no, I am definitely happy with the way that turned out. I can, like I said, finish welding this, kind of get this sanded down nice and smooth on top. I'll have to rough this up anyway a little bit, I think, because I think I'm going to glue the panel down, and I'll show you what I'm going to be using for the top layer here. All right, I've got both of these halves fully welded up. I went and put some spray paint on here too, kind of rough, scuffed them up a little bit so the paint would stick. And painted them black. So this is the bottom side. Here's the top side here. I wanted to leave the top side aluminum yet, or bare, just so the glue would stick to it. What my original plan is to do 1/8 inch aluminum on top, so it'd be nice and sturdy and everything, and nice and strong. Then I actually priced it out what it would cost, because I need 2 pieces of 4x8 sheet aluminum to do this. Because these are kind of a little bit wider than 4 feet, I would have to go a long way. Like this table here is a 4x8 sheet. So these, obviously stick out over the edges here, and you wouldn't be able to get enough material out of 1 sheet, so I'd have to buy 2. Well, those sheets are about $350 a piece. So, and that was 1/8 inch. Now, if you go thinner material, it kind of dropped by about $100 per sheet. So I didn't necessarily want to go thinner on here. I wanted to stay with that 1/8 inch thick material, because that's kind of how I planned it out on here, to be an 1/8 inch below the surface here. So it should be nice and flush hopefully when I'm all done. But that was my original plan, so I decided to try something else. I'm going with plastic. A lot of tonneau covers are kind of plastic on top anyway, but this is what I ended up going with, 1/8 inch plastic here. This is just something I picked up from the local big box hardware store in town here. It's 4x8 sheet. It's basically half the price. I think these were, well, way less than half the price. I think both of these, I'd get two of them. Both of them together was 150 bucks or something like that. I think they were like 68 bucks a piece or something. So that was way cheaper. It's still 1/8 inch material, and I think it should work. It's just a matter of making sure it gets glued to these things and sticks down. So my plan basically is get a piece on each one of them, get them kind of roughed in. I'm going to leave a little bit of overhang on each one, and then what I'll do is I'll get it glued down, let the glue set, and then I'll just take a router and flush them in on 3 sides. Where the hinge is, I'm going to try and match them up so they're nice, basically touching. So I'll probably have to bolt this together here and put them together so they're nice and flush and a nice straight line there and a nice joint, and then kind of glue everything together, let it sit, and then I can come in and flush that all in with the router, and I think that'll work good. What I plan on using is where did I set it now? Basically some 3M panel bond, 08115, and just to glue that down. It's supposed to be good to attach basically plastic to aluminum. So I'm hoping that'll work great. It's got to basically get something on here so it's touching all the way around or clamped down nice, and I think that'll work good. I will have a little bit of an overhang on the back here too. I'm going to try just a hair because this tailgate is rounded up here. This is an aftermarket tailgate, and it's supposed to be straight or level on top and then go down. And this one, maybe you can kind of see it, it rounds right here. So this sticks up, and I want to try and minimize this gap between the tailgate and here, but I don't want it rubbing on here either. So I'm going to try and play with that just a little bit. Yeah, here you can kind of see how it rounds down a little bit right here. And it should be pretty much straight across there. So I'll mess with that a little bit. I'll probably have to get it glued down and set on the truck, and then cut this very last and see where that's going to end up. So I might end up having to put something on the back of the tonneau cover here, you know, like a spacer to get that nice straight gap that I want, and then come in with the router and just buzz that quick. So we've got this one cut down to a roughed in size now. And I also have it taped off here. Basically, this is where the railing or the aluminum will be. So what I want to do is, because I'm using the smooth side towards the aluminum, I want to scuff this up a little bit. So this is just kind of letting me know where it is. So I'm going to come in and kind of take a little sanding disc and just scratch this up or scuff it up a bunch so the glue will actually adhere to it and it won't peel off. And then I already have the aluminum scuffed up on the back side or on the top side there. So we'll get that all scuffed up, and then I can get set down on there and start clamping that down. So I got this thing all clamped down here with pretty much anything I could find that would fit on here, just to get some weight on it or clamp it down, just so it's good and solid. Basically, I'm just going to give it 24 hours here to cure, and then we should be able to take all this stuff off and at least router the edges and the front, and then I'll figure out as far as the back here how much I'm going to cut off there for the tailgate. But hopefully everything works out there and sticks and cures right. So I got that middle part. It's kind of hard to see here, but they're basically butted up to each other. So we'll see once it's on the truck. Hopefully I don't have issues with it because that truck is bowed a little bit. If for some reason all of a sudden it's sitting flatter than it is on here, these are going to hit. So I may have to trim this just a little bit or sand this down in the middle. And it might open up the gap too once I set it on there. So we'll see, but I'm hoping my judgment is good there. All right, minor issue, hopefully minor issue anyway, but had everything all glued and took everything off here and went to fold the tonneau cover here just to try it out, and found out pretty quickly that these top panels were too close to each other. I guess I was hoping the hinge would kind of come out and then go over, where it's just immediately wanting to hit right here. So I should have really beveled this edge first. And that's kind of the issue here, is it's just not beveled. It just needs a little bit more of a gap here. So I'm going to bevel these edges, but the minor issue is that to get this apart, or to bevel this edge, I had to take this apart. Well, to take this apart, I had to get to the hinges in here and get to the screws from this side. So I had to fold it open just to get at the screws. So as carefully as I could, I tried to open this up past there. And I even tried to kind of take a razor blade here and bevel it a little bit before opening it up, just to give a little bit of a gap there. And I ended up, just this kind of corner came loose, popped loose. So I'm gonna have to try and re-glue this. Hopefully that's not an issue there. Everywhere else seems to be stuck, so I don't think I have any other issues, but I'm gonna try and bevel this edge with my beveling tool and get more of a gap there. Basically I want the very bottom of it hopefully to be touching. It's just that I need a nice bevel on there, and then it should clear. It didn't look like it needed a whole lot, but we'll do that, and then hopefully get everything re-glued down and kind of back together, and then I can go ahead and I'll probably trim these flush off now that it's apart. But yeah, kind of minor issue. I'm going to try it and see if I can salvage it. If not, I guess I'm going to see. I may go to aluminum yet, but right now I'd like to try and use this plastic here. If I have issues with it sticking to the aluminum, then I may just abandon that idea and go all aluminum. Then I can actually weld it onto it, and but it's worth a try, I think, and we'll check it out. Otherwise, I think it looks pretty good. Like I said, we'll get that kind of trimmed and back together, re-glued, and see what happens here. All right, guys, so take two here. Did not work out either. I let the glue sit up overnight. Got everything off this morning here, and just kind of was messing around with it, trying to make sure that the glue is all set up. And I figured, well, let's just kind of lift each corner a little bit, see if it's stuck on there. And this one, it's for whatever reason, I was just trying to lift a little bit, but you can see it just easily comes right off. It doesn't take much, and it's pulling loose. I don't know going down the road if this would have ever came off, but you should be able to at least lift it a little bit without it pulling loose like this. And it just, I'm gonna have to go to a different plan here. I did think about possibly just riveting it on, getting some black rivets, or even those plastic Christmas tree push pins. You could make it decent where you space them out and it looks okay. But I got the other one just kind of sitting up here. I like the way this is just a clean look to it. I don't know if I'd want rivets necessarily on here all over the place. So I think I'm just going to abandon the plastic here, as much as I like the look of it and stuff. And it's a little bit cheaper, easier to work with and stuff. If it's not going to stick, it's not going to be worth it. So if I'm going to be constantly fighting it coming loose, or over time it just sits there and rattles. So I think I'm going to abandon that idea and just bite the bullet and get some aluminum. I'll probably go a little bit thinner than 1/8 inch, which my original plan was, but I'm going to have to basically pull this off, get all the glue off of it, probably take the grinder to it, try and grind as much of it off. It seemed to really stick to the aluminum. It's just the plastic it's not sticking to. Maybe if I would have put the smooth surface up and the rougher surface down or something, maybe that would have been better, but I thought I had roughed up the plastic enough where the glue would have had some teeth to bite into it, but it doesn't seem to be sticking. And that was kind of a worry of mine too. I've dealt with plastic enough where sometimes it doesn't want to stick to it. Plastic is just kind of smooth. You almost need more of a chemical bond to it rather than just, an adhesive. But so more or less going to start over, get that metal frame prepped, or the aluminum frame prepped again. And at least I got somewhat of a pattern to cut out of my aluminum, the new aluminum here. But yeah, it's not sticking there. So on to plan B, I guess. And we live and we learn, don't we? So I think this is round 3 or 4 on this attempt here. But as you can see, I went and picked up some aluminum. Got it on here now. Here you can actually see the old plastic. I went and tore it off, and it came off so easily. Even though I roughed these edges up here, it just did not stick. And maybe there's some other glue out there that would have worked for me. But I use that 3M 8115 panel bond, supposed to do plastic and aluminum stuff, and just did not stick to this stuff. So, you know, plan B, I guess, plan C, whatever it is. So basically I went and picked up some aluminum. This is 12 gauge, so it's 0.100. So I picked up some 12 gauge aluminum, went and cut out my pieces here. Actually, this one you can see I got a bunch of holes that I drilled in this one because this was my first attempt here. My plan here was actually to drill all these holes, and then I was going to plug weld them and weld it just right to aluminum, and that way I know for sure that this thing isn't coming off and coming loose. And I figured I'd start in the center and work out just in case it got too hot or whatever. And I did the first one here, and right away, because I don't have any way of clamping the inside here, I don't have anything long enough that would clamp to the inside. The thing just bowed up right away. I even had some weight kind of sitting on here, trying to keep that down, and maybe that hole wasn't big enough. Needed to be bigger so I could get down in it, but that thing just bowed up right away and started to kind of burn through it a little bit. So I aborted that plan, and I decided, well, let's try and see. I know that panel bond glue stuck to the aluminum pretty good, so I thought, well, let's just try and see if we can't glue it down. So that's what I ended up doing here. And some of the glue came up through the holes here. I did have to take some body filler and kind of fill it in, make sure it was smooth. So I got that. This one is basically fully done, ready for some paint. I got everything, all these holes smoothed out, and I got all the edges nice and flush and sanded down. I even, before I put this on or glued it this time, I went and beveled this edge where the hinges are, just in case I needed to, because last time I needed to bevel that just to clear. Now this is a little bit thinner than 1/8 inch, so it's going to give me some more clearance there, but I still need to have that beveled just so it comes away from there. This one here I still have to do. This one I didn't have any holes drilled in it, thankfully, so a lot less body filler I got to use there, but I still have to grind down the edges here. And I'm going to have about a 3/8 or so lip here. This is the rear one, so I'm going to have this stick over a little bit, about 3/8, and basically that's going to cover up or go over the top of the tailgate. So it's just a matter of kind of doing the sides here. The front, or where the hinges are, is already kind of set in place, so it's just a matter of kind of doing this. I will have to touch this up, this back edge, just to make sure it's as straight as I can get it. And get that on there. I'm going to have to end up painting both sides. I think I'm going to kind of go with a textured finish on here, but I'm going to paint the underside first, and I can kind of show you. So I kind of sanded that down first just to get a little bite to the paint, but basically I'm just going to paint that black, clean it up, and it's looking a lot better now. You know, now I didn't do that, but and it went and had to spend a little bit more money just to do the aluminum route, but at least it's going to be what I want. So next time you'll see these things will both be painted, probably attached, and then it'll be on to putting the locks in here. All right, my quarter turn locks finally came in. Not a moment too soon. I was kind of getting worried there that they weren't going to show up in time, but got a car show coming up that I want to take this thing to, so finally got them in the mail. So these locks here, the head sticks up a little higher than I wanted to. There was another version of these that I wanted to get that had a lower profile head on it, but they were pretty much back ordered till August, and I wasn't willing to wait that long. So, but basically, just takes this key. That's kind of a round key. Now, the actual key turns about 180 degrees, but the lock itself only turns a quarter. But you can see I got them all installed on this side and adjusted right. So basically, I got 2 on each panel here on each side, so a total of 8 all around. I'm going to like that, I guess. I got a little tab, if I didn't show that before, that's just to grab the front if I need to go with the front first. But I think that's going to work great. The gap here is pretty good. I got to put those covers on the hinges here. They make little covers that cover up the screws on each side, so I got to put them on yet. But no, I think that turned out pretty good. You know, you could go with Zeus fasteners all the way along here. The one thing that if I didn't mention it, is that kind of when this is off, I didn't necessarily want to see a bunch of Zeus fasteners or anything like that, so I kind of wanted to have this thing look like there was nothing here. That channel iron that I have bolted on here, you don't necessarily see it if you're not looking for it, because with it painted black, it kind of blends in. But if you would have had the Zeus fasteners on here, you probably would have seen that stick out a little bit. So that's kind of the reason I went this route. But I kind of wish I would have had that other style lock that's a little bit lower profile. Like I mentioned, there's different kinds of locks you could have on here that are more flush, but this is just kind of what I wanted. So, but otherwise, still got enough clearance in here, I guess, to put whatever I need to. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty good. All right, I'm gonna start packing some stuff in here for the car show. And maybe I'll videotape that too. It should be a fun car show here coming up. But I'm gonna get some stuff packed in here. You know, this is just my way of making this tonneau cover. You can have all kinds of different ideas to do this. It's just one guy's way of doing it. So maybe give you some ideas of what to do, what not to do. You know, I tried that plastic. I wish it would have worked. It would have been a lot lighter. But you know, I just didn't want to stick to that aluminum. So now that the aluminum is on there, that's sticking way better, and I think it's going to be a lot sturdier, but now it's a lot heavier too. So it's still lighter than if it was steel, but yeah. And that just all depends on what kind of thickness you want for the top here. You could go a little bit thinner than what I did, which this was, what did I say, 16 gauge or something. But anyway, I like how it turned out. I can still remove it if I need to, and I can access the front box if I need to. So I think it turned out pretty good. All right, guys, well, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.